World Cup's well on its way, and there's been a lot of surprises so far, so I'll run down some of my predictions and then who's actually made it to the second round. Right now, I predicted for Group A, I predicted Mexico number 1, France number 2, and France just played terrible this World Cup opening round. Mexico played strong, but Uruguay, the original World Cup champion, actually won the group. So Uruguay is number 1, Mexico is number 2. So in Group B, I predict Argentina, and I said Nigeria would be number 2, and Nigeria also played poorly. So I've seen all the teams, and I'm probably most impressed with Argentina. So Argentina won Group B, number 1, and then South Korea came in at number 2. Group C, I thought England would be number 1, and the United States number 2, and by a really lucky goal by the United States against England to tie it up, and then an outstanding, just a sweet goal by Landon Donovan in the last game against Algeria in the 91st minute put United States as number 1 top seed and England number 2. And so one thing that I want to say though is there's all these comparisons between that goal and the miracle year of hockey team of the Winter Olympics, and like trying to compare it to one of the greatest moments in American sports, and that's really ridiculous. It's the first round. It was a 1-0 win against Algeria, and the thing is once the United States beats a team like Netherlands, Germany, Brazil, they'll actually have Argentina if they can beat Argentina, Italy, and in a year when they're actually good, then that's the United States actually triumphing over all the odds. But the United States should win games against Algeria, and they should win their next game against Ghana, even though Ghana eliminated them last year, or not last year, but Ghana eliminated them in 2006 from the chances for the second round. So next is Group D. Group D, Germany, I thought was going to win it, and I said Australia would win it, kind of crossed my fingers, but they almost did. They almost got the second place, but they lost out because of score differential and because they got walloped by Germany. So the Group D is Germany number 1 and Ghana number 2. So Group E, I thought it was going to be Netherlands number 1 and Cameroon number 2, and again, only Ghana out of the African teams made it. So Group E, it ended up being Netherlands number 1 and Japan number 2. And Japan has really impressed me out of all the teams that are kind of a surprise. The Dutch are really strong, but the Japanese are quick and tenacious, and so that will bode well if they keep that up for now the elimination rounds. And then Group F, oh my goodness. Italy had the easiest group by far to get through, and they had the attitude basically of they expected to win, and they expected teams to kind of pay their respects and lose to them, but that's not how it works. That's why you have to play the games. And Italy ended up losing and their last game against Slovakia, which knocked them out, and so I thought Italy was going to be number 1 and Slovakia number 2. And Italy they just expected to win instead of earning victory, and that's a big deal in any sports, and especially in soccer. So what ended up happening is number 1 Paraguay and number 2 Slovakia. Paraguay looked pretty good, and then Group G, I thought it was going to be Brazil number 1 and Portugal number 2, and it turned out being Brazil number 1 and Portugal number 2. So I pretty much figured that one out. And then finally Group H, I thought it was going to be Spain number 1 and Switzerland number 2, and it was a real shocker. Switzerland beat Spain in the first game, which was probably the biggest upset in the first round. But Switzerland came up short. Chile played really exceptionally well every game, and ended up the final for Group H was Spain number 1 and Chile number 2. And so a lot of surprises. I did this online competition through Seattle Sounders and the Seattle Times, and I got game for game, I got 22 out of 48 games, so 45%. And that kind of sounds bad, but there's so many draws, and I usually don't pick draws, and I forgot how many draws there actually were in the World Cup, so it turned out to be a lot more draws, but that's not too bad. 45% so far. And I got at least one right in every single group, so I was pretty proud of that. So game for game now, it's going to be Uruguay versus South Korea. I favor Uruguay in that one. United States versus Ghana. United States has got to win that one. They need to up the game in the United States, up their reputation. They got to get past the second round. And then Germany versus England. That's going to be an epic game. That'll be a lot of bad blood between the countries, not only in sports but in world history. So I'm really rooting for England on that one, and I think that they can win it, but they'll have to play the best game they've played yet. Germany will have to play down a little bit, but they've lost to Serbia, so they're not perfect, and so England hasn't lost one yet, and so England will have to really rise to the occasion and beat Germany. Next is Argentina versus Mexico. That is going to be a huge game too, and so a lot of competition right there between those two Spanish-speaking countries, and I think that Argentina is going to lead to victory because I think Argentina is probably the strongest team I've seen yet. So Messi is really good, and he's probably the top player, and so I think they'll take that one. Next is Netherlands versus Slovakia. Netherlands should have no problem with that game. And then Brazil versus Chile, and that's a tough one to pick because Chile's really played well from the games that I've seen, but I guess Brazil's kind of been manhandling them in preliminary rounds or qualification rounds in the World Cup. So it's tough to root against, or it's tough to choose against Brazil because Brazil has a tendency to dominate, but especially once it gets after the first round. But we'll see. So that one, I'm gonna say Brazil, but I wouldn't be surprised if Chile upsets them. And then Paraguay versus Japan, and I think that's all Japan on that one. Paraguay played well from the games that I saw, but Japan is a real surprise this time around, so I think that Japan's actually going to make it pretty far. And last game, Spain versus Portugal, Iberian Peninsula, so you're going to see some real rivalry there, and I think that Spain will probably take it, but I wouldn't be surprised again if Portugal surprises Spain as well. So España versus Portugal, great games in the second round. So we'll see how they turn out, and then I'll give a little update next round. But some surprises. I was about half right, a little bit above half right of who was going to pass into the second round, and we'll go from there. So all right, woke up. It's good stuff.